I am 25 years old and female. I have been dating my boyfriend, who is 27, for 2 years. He's been my first ever boyfriend because not a lot of guys seem interested in me. Overall, our relationship has been good, but something happened recently that made me question everything. About 2 months ago, I started feeling severe abdominal pain while we were at his apartment. The pain became so intense that I could hardly move or speak. I told my boyfriend that I needed to go to the hospital because something felt very wrong. He dismissed my concern, saying I was overreacting and that it was probably just something I ate. Despite my pleas, he refused to take me to the hospital or even call an ambulance. Instead, he suggested I lie down and wait it out. The pain kept getting worse, and I was scared, throwing up and crying. After an hour of begging him to help me, I finally managed to call a friend who immediately came over and took me to the ER. It turns out I had pancreatitis, which required immediate medical attention. The doctors said it could have been life-threatening if I'd waited any longer. My friend stayed with me the entire time, but my boyfriend didn't even check in to see how I was doing until the next day. He sent a brief text saying he hoped I was feeling better. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and he didn't even bother to come see me. When I confronted him about his lack of support and concern, he got defensive, saying I was being dramatic and didn't think it was serious. He accused me of making him look bad in front of my friends for something that wasn't a big deal. I decided to break up with him because I can't be with someone who doesn't take my health seriously or support me in an emergency. Now, after we've been apart for a few weeks, some of our mutual friends are saying I overreacted and that he just made a mistake. They think I should give him another chance, claiming he was busy and it wasn't as big of a deal as I made it out to be. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot, yeah. No. 3 weeks in the hospital for nothing serious, said no one ever. I bet if he has the sniffles, he's dying. It's better being single than looking after this idiot. Tell your friend to shut up. Until they've been hospitalized for 3 weeks without seeing their significant other, they won't understand. He showed you his true self. You did the right thing. My partner had pancreatitis, and I drove her to the hospital immediately and spent the next week working remotely from her hospital room. I'm at the bottom of the scale for compassionate relationship effort. Find someone better. Why weren't the friends worried about where you were for 3 weeks or what was going on? I'm wondering if these are friends who were his friends first. Man, I hope they were his friends first because that would explain that whole group op. You took care of one problem and dumped the boyfriend. Go find a better one. Now, take care of the other problem and dump the friends who are excusing him. Go find better ones. Also, get rid of that "not a lot of guys seemed interested in me" mentality. Even if you need to go to therapy to get help with recognizing your self-worth, men like your dirtbag boyfriend will be drawn to that mindset. They'll convince you you're trapped, have no other options, and are stuck with them and their abusive treatment of you. You need to be able to see through that, and therapy will help you take care of yourself. I gave birth to my daughter Ember a few months ago. My husband and I loved her name. That's how it was chosen. We announced the day she was born, and nobody said anything negative or gave a reason for us not to use it. I say this because 3 days ago, my sister-in-law, who's married to my brother, sat me down and asked me to change the name. It's the name of her lost daughter, whom she had with her ex-husband 7 years ago. She told me she tried to keep it quiet, but couldn't let me keep calling my daughter Ember because it was such a painful reminder for her. She told me she really feels like we should change her name. I gently told my sister-in-law that my daughter was an infant, and her name is on the birth certificate. It would cost us to change it, so we will not. She told me she tried so hard not to say anything, and that she eventually broke and brought this up. It should show how hard this is for her and make me more willing to change the name. I told my husband about it afterward, and he felt like I did. He told me it seemed like an excuse to wait for almost 5 months to tell us, when she had the chance long before this. Long before this, my brother found out about the conversation with his wife, and he reached out and told me she mentioned it to him 2 months ago, and that she was battling with asking us to change the name since then. But he understands why I said no and supports the decision. Yesterday, she reached out to me again and asked me if we decided on a new name yet, and I told her my answer was still no. She asked why, and I told her she waited 4 months to tell us. She became very angry very quickly and told me if she'd lost my niece, my response would be different. I should see this as her losing my niece, because she would have been if she were alive. She also told me my daughter would grow up always hearing about the cousin I gave the same name as, and that I should reconsider before burdening my daughter with that. She told me a good person with good morals would. I should also mention that I knew she'd suffered a pregnancy loss, but it was implied she had a miscarriage far earlier and not a late child. I never knew the name or gender, and I never ever heard her use a name for her daughter. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Everyone grieves differently and at their own rate. However, 7 years definitely warrants therapy, counseling, and coping mechanisms. I find it extremely difficult to believe that in 7 years, your sister-in-law has never met anyone, or even a pet, named Ember, or has she insisted that person change the name? Also, the fact that she's threatening to burden your child with the knowledge of her loss for the rest of their life warrants low contact at a minimum. She should never be unsupervised with your daughter. You need to nip this in the bud. Otherwise, you will guilt your daughter for her name her whole life. Okay, look, you're not the idiot for keeping your child's name. Your sister-in-law needs therapy, one who is an expert in child loss. But you're mad at her for not telling you sooner. But would that have changed anything? I bet the answer is no. Your husband is wrong in saying it's a weak excuse to have waited to say anything, when in fact it shows she was trying to come to terms with her loss. Have empathy for her. She lost a child. You may one day be in her shoes. I hope you never are, but well, crap happens. So look, stop blaming her. She shouldn't keep pestering you, but she seemingly tried to get over it. And until you lose a child, you'll never know or understand her pain. How about compromise? Can she call the child a nickname, maybe Emmy, when she's around? The only issue with this is that unless her sister-in-law seeks therapy, she will still be upset whenever her niece's friends or family inadvertently use her given name. A nickname is okay as a temporary solution, but nicknames are only used so often. What will happen when Op's daughter is old enough and decides she doesn't like the nickname she was given? I don't think a nickname is a good idea in the long run because it will inadvertently become a crutch her sister-in-law will use to avoid seeking therapy or become a point of contention anytime it's not used. I am 37 years old and married to my husband, who is 38. Our 10-year anniversary was last Friday. I took the day off of work to spend time with him, but it didn't happen. I knew my husband had the day off too, since he'd taken a call the day before. When I woke up on our anniversary, I saw my gift on my end table. It wasn't wrapped, but I liked the gift, so I didn't take issue. After I dropped our kids, a male and female pair of twins, off at the bus stop, I went home and made him breakfast. I brought it to him in bed, and he was still sleeping. No problem, I just ate it. My husband woke up at around 9 o'clock, said, "Happy anniversary," and went downstairs to make himself breakfast. I asked if he had any plans for the day, and he said to relax. I wanted to maybe go to a restaurant or see a movie, or at least do something together, just me and him. He said no. By then, I was a bit disheartened, but I took his answer and about 20 minutes later, I dressed up and headed out with a warning. I just treated myself to the spa, shopping, and stuff like that. When I got back, around 6-ish, he was with our kids. By the time they went to bed, he brought up the fact that I left and asked why I did so. I told him it was because I wasn't just going to do nothing all day because he wanted to, and that he didn't even care enough to spend time with me, so it wouldn't be an issue that I spent time alone. He went quiet after that, and while we've talked it over since then, I'm posting here to see if my past actions were idiot-like. Am I the idiot? Everyone's the idiot here. Your husband is an idiot for saying no when you asked him to do something, and you're an idiot for a few reasons. Where was his gift? Did you get him one? If you made him breakfast while he was sleeping and then ate it, he made his breakfast, that's not a point for you. You didn't communicate at all. You left him on your anniversary alone. You could have done that if spending time together was what you were really after. You wanted to be spoiled and pampered. This story comes across as, it's my husband's job to plan our anniversary, and it's my job to enjoy it. What are you talking about? He got a sleep in while she got the kids ready. That's a lot more than breakfast. Not the idiot everyone is saying you didn't communicate, but he didn't either. He didn't ask you if you wanted to stay in the house. He chose to decide for both of you. I don't think you're the idiot for wanting him to make an effort and for not wanting to be cooped up in the house either. My wife, 36, female, and I, 35, male, have been married for 7 years and have a kindergarten-age son. My wife has 4 siblings, 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Her brothers live far away, and she isn't very close to them. Her sister lives within 2 hours of us, and the three of them are very close. Both of her sisters have 2 kids. Her younger sister, Jen, 25, has 2 toddlers. Jen, her husband, and their kids visited us this past weekend for Memorial Day. We have 3 bedrooms in our house: our master, our son's room, and a smaller guest room. My wife decided on her own that we would let Jen and her family have our bedroom. Apparently, Jen's kids aren't the best sleepers at home, and if they're in an unfamiliar place, it's even worse. So, my wife offered Jen our room so that all of them could be in one room, and my wife and I would sleep in the guest room. It turns out that by bad sleepers, Jen meant that her kids wake up multiple times a night and then wake up for good at 5 a.m. every single day. I don't know about anyone else, but the last thing I want to do on a weekend is to be woken up by a screaming baby at 5 a.m. 3 days in a row, it wasn't just the crying baby. Jen and her husband would also be running around, getting whatever the baby needed. The commotion woke our son, who then woke my wife and me up every day at 5 a.m. I spent the entire weekend tired and cranky. To make things worse, Jen and her husband would nap together whenever one of their kids was napping, which left my wife and me to watch their non-napping kid. I complained to my wife about being tired, and she told me that her sister and brother-in-law needed the rest more than we did because this is their life every day, so we should help them at least get a little break. But by the time Jen and her family left on Monday, I only wanted to sleep, which I did immediately after they left. My wife got upset with me for napping because our son was also tired and cranky, fighting her on everything. She woke me up so that she could take a break. I later told her that the next time her sister wants to come visit, they need to get a hotel because their kids' sleeping habits are clearly disruptive to our entire family. She told me that she isn't telling her sister to fork out hundreds for a hotel room when we have the space for them in our house. She also said that Jen's kids will become better sleepers as they get older. I told her that every decision she makes prioritizes her sister over me and our son, and she got defensive and told me I was being a jerk. Maybe I'm far enough removed from the baby stage that I blocked it out, but I don't remember ever being so disruptive to anyone when we were guests in their house. They're supposed to come visit us again for the 4th of July, and I'm already dreading it. So your wife made all these decisions without your input, and then wanted you and your son to take the brunt of the exhaustion on top of it. No, thank you. It's okay if she's willing to make that sacrifice, but she's deciding that for you and your son too, and neither of you are willing participants. I would think the more alarming thing would be that your wife plans to make these visits a regular thing. That kind of inconsideration would not fly in my home. You are not the idiot. Your wife should go visit her sister instead. You don't have room for them. You had to give up your room and sleep in the guest room. If she insists, tell her that you won't be babysitting the night on napping kid next visit. If she wants to torture herself to help her sister, she can, but you won't. If she wants to push it, tell her that you and your son will be staying at a hotel, and she and her sister can have a nice weekend, since this is apparently her priority. You and the kiddo can have a fun daddy and me weekend. You obviously have the right to refuse to host them again, but I don't think it's the best move. Your in-laws weren't trying to be bad guests. They just have small kids, and many small kids are just bad sleepers. Your wife was trying to be a kind and gracious host and doesn't mind dealing with a little unpleasantness because she loves her sister. At the end of the day, your wife's opinion of you matters a lot more than that of internet strangers. I'm sure you'd want her to find a way to compromise if it was something that was important to you. Instead, I, a female of 25, am celebrating my birthday weekend in Miami in July. I invited 5 of my close friends, and 3 of their boyfriends are tagging along as well. I've been so excited about this trip because partying in Miami has been a tradition with my friends since we turned 21. One of my friends, Ethan, a male of 26, texted me a month after booking our accommodations. He said he had invited and paid for the sister, 42, and brother-in-law, 45, of our close friend Cassie, 26. For reference, I've never felt comfortable drinking or partying around Cassie's family. So, my initial reaction was to be upset. Ethan apologized and said he should have asked me before buying their flights and hotel stay. I agreed with him, but also asked if it was possible to cancel their reservations because I didn't feel comfortable with them joining us. Am I the idiot for this? I don't want to party with people I don't get along with. Ethan assured me that Cassie's sister and brother-in-law would not interact with us on the trip, but Cassie told me she would like to go out with them at some point during our stay. Ethan continued to tell me that even if we interacted with the sister and brother-in-law, it would be short and shouldn't affect our trip, but I didn't want to interact with them at all. I just don't feel comfortable wearing club clothes and drinking in front of Cassie's family members, whom I do not get along with. I also don't appreciate being disrespected by him not asking me if they could go. Ethan tells me it would be rude to cancel the sister and brother-in-law's flights and hotel because it was already promised to them. I can see why that would be messed up, but it's also not my issue since I don't want them there in the first place. I don't think I should have to deal with any of that, considering I planned my own birthday trip. Now there's tension between my friendship with Ethan and Cassie. I don't know how I should react to this upcoming trip if the sister and brother-in-law's accommodations aren't canceled. Am I the idiot for asking them to cancel their accommodations? Oh wow, so not the idiot. Who in their right mind would invite someone to another birthday party without asking the host? You've said it multiple times. These two people are not your friends. So, I would insist on the cancellation, or I would be petty enough to cancel my stuff and plan something somewhere else. Let him and her enjoy their family trip, but without you. It's good that my friends aren't this disrespectful and dense. They'll think you are the idiot, no matter how you put it or lay it on them. What's the point of them going on your birthday if they won't spend time with the group anyway? Ethan could have bought them a ticket to any other country or at a different time. Weird, honey. Secretly change your accommodation and when you arrive in Miami, say, "See you later, have a great time," and then bounce. Ethan can spend his vacation being the third wheel. This is the best way to salvage the birthday trip.